What's up YouTube? Welcome back to Jackal Gold Games. So in this video, I'm going to be doing a review for the video game God of War Ragnarok. Much like God of War 2018, I do not own this. My cousin has it in his account, so I'll put a picture of it somewhere in this review. Now, I reviewed God of War 2018. I did enjoy that game. I thought it was really good. And I was looking forward to playing the sequel to it. And after beating this game and platinuming it, I must say that I did enjoy this game. Though there is something that I do want to address that I'm kind of conflicted on, especially if it becomes the new face to the series, let's say. So the sequel, God of War Ragnarok, Falls of 2018. Some years have passed. Atreus is a little older. This one's more about basically the continuation of 2018, dealing with Thor, dealing with going after Odin and the fall of Asgard and Ragnarok coming, and seeing Fimbulwinter affect the 9 realms after the death of Balder. You get to see things in the story like the civilization where the dwarves live. You get to see these characters called the Nords who can tell the future. There are the Valkyries you fought in 2018 that work with you in this game eventually. You have Asgard and Odin's civilization. You get to see how it is from his perspective when you're playing as Atreus. And just the overall concept of the story is taking down Odin and building off of what 2018 was. Now, I did enjoy my time with this game. Story-wise, I did enjoy the story that was here. Thor was a pretty good villain. I enjoyed the 2 boss fights you did have with him as Kratos. He was a good villain. Odin, while you could see him as a deceitful person and stuff, I think his design could have been done differently. I mean, he doesn't look that intimidating. He's like an old man. They could have did something else with his design because he's not really intimidating. But you have him in there. But I did enjoy the story. You get to see more of what happened with Freya wanting revenge, and then her eventually, as the story progresses, she becomes an ally again of Kratos, and she can actually become a companion because you can have different companions in this game, which is cool. So I did enjoy the story. There were some crazy twists in there I didn't see coming, like Brock getting killed off. That was pretty crazy, honestly. I didn't see that coming. I get why Sindri was affected by it, but I didn't like how he was towards Atreus over that. I thought that wasn't fair, because Atreus wasn't the only character that brought Tyr in there, and it just felt out of it. I didn't care for that, to be honest. With Freya, it made sense why she was mad at Kratos, because Kratos killed Balder, her son. Sindri, Atreus did not kill his brother, so it didn't make as much sense for how he was acting towards Atreus. Seeing Odin being Tyr the whole time was crazy. I didn't see that one coming. You have a new character in the story, Angrboda, which I didn't mind her. She's like a giant from the giant place, and Atreus has some development with her. You get to see her grandma, which is a pretty cool boss fight. And I like a lot of the stuff they do in the story. I think as a sequel it does improve on a lot of things. I think the traversal in this game is a lot better than 2018. Being able to go from place to place with your chains of chaos and go through walls, and just kind of how you move around is a lot better. I like how the armor, you can have any armor you want with any stats. I think that's cool, because if there's an armor you got that you don't like how it looks but has good stats, you can wear a different armor over that. I think that's great. I'm glad they did that. That's really cool. I like how there's more to the shields where you can upgrade them and stuff like that. That's really nice. The companion system, like I said, we can just have other companions besides Atreus, is pretty cool. I think the graphics are a step up from 2018, of course. One of the biggest things that I'll give this game credit for that it really improved on, it has such a better boss variety. In 2018, you were just fighting trolls and the ancients, and it was like the same kind of enemies over and over again. God of War Ragnarok has much better boss variety. Sometimes you'll fight a half horse, half human person, or you'll fight like a Dreki, which are pretty much their versions of alligators and crocodiles. Or you'll fight dragons, or occasionally a troll. There's just better variety in here, which I appreciate. This game was definitely a lot more difficult for me than 2018. Now, gameplay-wise, I did enjoy God of War Ragnarok. It was fun gameplay-wise. Much like 2018, exploring the world, doing main missions, side missions. I like the combat of the axe, the blades of chaos. Eventually the spear you get is really cool, upgrading the skill tree, the runic summons you can use with your whichever companion you have, their arrows, all the runics you get are cool, light and heavy runic attacks, leveling up, going through the skill tree, buying stuff from the blacksmith, upgrading, exploring the world, getting items, and doing quests and stuff, and getting lore markers, and just all that stuff is really fun. I enjoy the gameplay of this game, the hack and slash combat with enemies. A lot of good challenge there with some of the bosses having to learn how they attack and learning strategy and stuff like that. I just enjoy the open world aspect, main story, going off the beaten path. The gameplay is fun in this game. However, something I want to talk about that I'm conflicted on, and that is the Atreus sections, because something they did in this game is there are a few times actually in this game where you switch to Atreus, and at first I was like, and I'm still not 100% sold on it. I mean, it got a little better later on because you did have cool moments like Angerboda's, grandmother boss fight, seeing what Asgard was like, that definitely helped. But gameplay wise, I wasn't like, it's not the best thing ever with Atreus, because all he really has is a crossbow. He doesn't really have like a sword or a hammer you can use up close and personal, and it's just more fun playing as Kratos. I could have went without the Atreus sections if I had the choice. I got more used to him, but it's not my preferred way to play God of War, which leads me to another problem. The finale of this game is really cool, where he finally leads the army together. You go after Odin and Asgard, and it feels like he feels like you're part of a final battle, which is great. The game ends and Atreus goes off on his own path with Angerboda. Now that worries me because it makes it seem like if they do a new one of these, it's going to be about Atreus and her and what he's doing. And I'm very skeptical about that because, while it's been cool to have Atreus with Kratos is one of the, key drawing appeals, not only of God of War 2018, but this game. I just think Atreus needs a lot more work before he can even carry a game for him, because, a lot of people I heard had issues with this section of this game. Well, I got somewhat used to him. It's not preferable, like a part of me wonders if I would prefer 2018 because of the fact that you can play as Kratos the whole way through. Whereas Ragnarok, you're switching to Atreus sometimes. So yeah, I think having sections where you play as Atreus, I think what would have made them better, in my opinion, is having something else to use besides the crossbow. And maybe because he's still a kid, it's not as interesting to play as him because he's not really that strong because he's a kid. I mean, it's cool he can do a summon as a wolf and stuff, but it's definitely preferable to play as Kratos. I think they took a risk putting that in this game, and I don't think it paid off fully, in my opinion. I think because of that, I might have to say I did like 2018 more, because at least 2018 you were playing as Kratos the whole way through. This game sometimes you're switching, and it's just like, I don't know about that. I really don't. But it is cool to see Asgard and him meeting characters like Thor's daughter and wife, and you get kind of you get to see more of the villains compared to 2018, which is great. And getting to see Kratos work with different companions is cool, like Brock and Freya. But I do enjoy the gameplay overall of the game. I think the new enemies they have are pretty cool. Like you have these like reptile type enemies and like these toad type enemies and the alligator type enemies like I mentioned. You have like mini dragons you fight. You have like these like energy looking balls you fight, which also turn into wisps sometimes. You have like phantoms you fight where you gotta damage their core and then you get all the statues knocked out. You get to fight light elves in this one, which is pretty cool. I did like that. The mix of dark elves and light elves are really cool. I think some of the new traversal is cool, like being able to go around with like either wolves or whatever those things were in the sand lands. That's pretty cool. And just cool amulets to use in the game with different abilities. You got some new Spartan Rage stuff. Like in this one, you can use Spartan Rage to attack with a weapon, which is pretty cool as well. Some of the stuff in the game was really challenging. Going after all the berserkers and fighting the king, fighting the new Valkyrie Queen. That was tough as well. It was fun to platinum the game. So gameplay wise, I did enjoy the game. I enjoyed the story. I did enjoy a lot of the characters in the game. Kratos definitely changed a lot in this game, though there were times I didn't like how they talked to Kratos or how he was treated. Like, oh, Mimir's a better storyteller. It's like, or, when he was trying to tell Freya about his brother, it just was kind of weird. There's certain times how he's talked to that I don't really care for. It's just like, I don't really care for that. But the story that is there, I enjoy it. I enjoy a lot of the areas, like, the different version of Alfenheim compared to 2018. Seeing the dwarf type place is cool. Seeing this version of Muspelheim and it kind of playing more of a part in the story, which is cool. Seeing the version of Niflheim and, kind of what they do differently with the Odin Ravens is cool. And, the in-game content was cool as well. And, it's just, I did enjoy my time with the game. Graphically, it looks great. It ran great for me on PS5. And, the sound effects are great. The music works for what it is, but I just feel like the music in this game in 2018, it's not like memorable video game music. It's not like video game music I'm going to remember, But, I overall enjoyed this game, but I would say if I had to give, like, the biggest problem with this game is the Atreus sections. While I did get somewhat used to them, I think they shouldn't have had him. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like they want to give him the new face of the series. Like, he's going to be the new face of God of War, when Kratos is a lot more interesting as a character, let's be honest. Like, that's why I would say out of the two, while I enjoyed this game, I liked God of War 2018 more, and I would probably put that over this, because God of War 2018, you're playing as Kratos the whole way through. There were times where I felt like I kind of liked Atreus more in 2018, I also liked, and there's some things about 2018 I like more that they didn't really do in the sequel. Like, I feel like Atreus, there was a lot of things better about him in 2018. Like, I liked how his armor had different abilities to it. His armor has nothing in Ragnarok, which I don't understand that. I liked a lot of the runic summons in 2018 more with Atreus. In this one, he just gets Ratatoskr, the wolves, and the elk. I liked his summons more in 2018, where you had crows, you had the falcons, you have the Ratatoskr, the wolves, you had a lot of stuff. I liked the electricity arrows, the light arrows for stunning, and how he, there was just a lot more to him that I almost feel like if you were going to play as him, those extra things he had in 2018 may have helped. I think they could have did something to make him a lot more bearable to play as in sections, But some other things I prefer in 2018, I feel like some of the runic attacks were a little stronger, like the Wrath of the Frost Ancient, the Beam. Some of that stuff felt like it was a little nerfed, in my opinion, in Ragnarok. And, I don't know. That's my review overall on God of War Ragnarok. I did enjoy this game, and I had, a good time with it. It'll be interesting to see what they do with the series next. For a new God of War game, I would prefer, unless they somehow revamp Atreus. Because the thing with Atreus' sections that I wanted to mention one more time is that using the crossbow, it just isn't that fun in the gameplay in terms of other weapons. It's doable, but it's like, I wish you could use a sword or a hammer. I've just never been a crossbow guy or shooting bolts kind of guy, And I just think that, like, if they're going to have us play as him, they're going to have to do a lot with it, And I don't think I'll really be excited for a game with him and Angerboda the whole way through. I just don't think I'll be hyped for that. I don't think that's something I'll really be interested in, especially if Kratos is in it, If they make another one, I think they should just cut out that no playing as Atreus and keep it as Kratos the whole way through. That's what I think they should do, at least. But that's my review of God of War Ragnarok. I did enjoy it. But because of the Atreus sections, I don't think I would say this is better than 2018, personally. I don't know, because it does kind of break the flow, because you're playing as Kratos, then you switch to him, and he just isn't as strong, and it's not as, cool as playing as Kratos, even though I did get used to it. It's not preferable, and it just kind of, it's like, I don't know. But that's what I got to say about the game overall. Let me know in the comments how you felt about, God of War Ragnarok. And yeah, that's it for this review. Peace out.